Hello, and welcome back to A Mental Break. I'm your host, Taylor Simpson, and on today's episode, I have a lovely, lovely guest. His name is Daniel Monte, and he is a fantastic artist. He plays violin, which is fucking sick. He plays keys at the same time, which is fucking sick. He's a great vocalist, which is fucking sick.
Thank you.
And he writes good music. So Daniel and I have been friends for, I want to say, the better part of 2 years, I think,
2
right?
years, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 2 years. I think we met at one of your shows,
Nicole
right?
Haber.
Yes.
With Nicole Haber,
Yes.
we played a show at Horseshoe.
That's the one. Yep.
Horseshoe,
I remember
yeah.
because I was supporting Nicole, and then I met you guys, and
Yeah.
we've been friends ever since that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Daniel and I, what can I say? I mean, Daniel and I have been good pals for the last 2 years. We've played shows together now. I've seen a couple of your shows. You've seen a couple of my shows. We support each other's art.
Yeah.
Support each other's passion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to, get together and have chats. We've gotten together a few times, me, you, and Nicole.
Yeah.
And, you're working heavily with Ian now, too, which is
I
great,
am,
'cause I work
yes.
heavily with Ian, too, so
Yeah,
that's like a cool
Ian's
mutual that we
drums
got.
for both of us.
Yeah, so, yeah, there's a lot of
Lots of
good times and a
connections.
lot more good times to come.
I'm sure there are. Yeah, we got to do that Friends Fest thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, we got to figure that out.
We got to figure that out. I'm putting it on the podcast now to keep us liable later.
Yeah, there we go. There's always reference now. We can look back and
I'll be like, hey,
look at
we
that.
said it. We said it. Awesome. So like that's how I know Daniel Monte. We've been good pals. He's a great artist. But just let the people know, listening and viewing, a little bit more about yourself, Daniel. Like who you are, your background. That kind of stuff.
Sure. I mean, as Taylor so eloquently put, I play violin, piano, vocals, a lot of songwriting. I basically started doing this in 2017, and then started doing it in 2017, but I really released the first single in late 2019, going into 2020 with the first album. So there was a lot of from that period. There's a lot of figuring out, getting a band together, getting things together. So realistically, the first big thing was 2020.
Okay.
And again, through, trials and tribulations, so to speak, it wasn't until last year, May, that we started taking it in a new direction.
Okay.
And, it was kind of like version 2.0 has just begun last year.
Nice.
So that's kind of an exciting thing. And yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at as an artist and what we do. Yeah.
Cool, man. What about you as a person?
Me as a person.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
a
we're
loaded
talk about today, man.
That is a loaded question, my friend. Me as a person.
Yeah, just give us a little synopsis.
Well, a synopsis of who I am. I'm still always trying to figure that out.
Aren't we all?
So, I mean, where I am as it stands right now.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I just kind of, I'm kind of an obsessed individual who's determined to do certain things and try to do those certain things, and I lead myself into extreme stresses. And I'm a very stressed individual. That really is
It's
like
the
a
best
summary of
synopsis of my life.
who I am. But mind you, I like to have a good time. I like to hang out
That's
with
so
friends,
good.
and
There
I
you
like
go.
to, I like to do all that, human things.
Yeah, the human stuff.
And yeah, and I find that fascinating, the human stuff.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Because I think there's more drama and character in the human stuff, and kind of again, figuring out who I am. I mean, in the sense of if you listen to the songs, because again, that's the best way that I express myself is through that. So it's I always try to reference those because that's the easiest way for me to look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking of, right?
It's like the channel you use.
Right. It's a very, it's a really weird thing being an artist. You kind of learn about yourself when listening to your recordings back.
Sure.
You kind of
might not
once
be
you
doing it
write
consciously, it might just be coming out that way.
Right, because sometimes I'll write a song and then I'll finish that song and I'll be like, whoa, that's what I was thinking. So it's and I realize that I am kind of interested and curious about ethics. What is good? What is bad?
Sure.
How much of playing within the bad is good? You know what I mean?
I like that, dude.
Kind of.
This is so cool. This is the first time anyone's ever dove this way with this question.
Yeah,
That's great.
but that's, you know, it's like
That's cool.
That's what it is. It's like, who are you? I mean, we're all trying to figure it out, and we're all
I
going
was
on
more
this
expecting
journey.
like, hi, I'm Daniel Monte. I'm 26.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
grew up
that,
with
that too. I mean, I grew
And
up
you
in
went,
Toronto.
You went
and-
so existential that I was like, I love it.
Okay,
This is
so
great.
this is what I'm talking about. When you ask who is Daniel Monte, this
you were
right
like
here.
this contraption right here.
Yeah, exactly.
No, dude, that's
So, yeah.
sick. I love that. That's such a good vibe.
Yeah. Wow.
Cool. Well, yeah, give us like a quick breakdown. That's
Of-
not as essential.
That's not as essential. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just a guy that writes music and plays things, and I, you know, love nature and, you know, people and experiencing
Yeah.
new things. You know,
Where are you
just,
from?
like, Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah. I mean, Italian background, very Italian background.
Okay.
My dad's like an immigrant from Italy, so
Nice. What part of Italy is he from?
Rome.
Rome.
Yeah, my mom is Abruzzese, but she's what is it, first generation Canadian, or I don't know. My nonni are from Italy, so she was born in Canada.
So she. Okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
so I don't know what that is. Does that
That's-
make
I
it
think
first
that's-
generation Canadian or second generation?
Second generation, I think. Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
If her grandparents were born here, then that would have been first generation, I think.
My grandparents were born in Italy, so
Italy,
she
so
was
that would be second generation,
okay. Anyway,
I think.
there we go. Well,
Call me out in the
They'll
comments.
they'll tell us. They'll
tell
confirm
us.
us. Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome, man. So
Yeah.
Italian background. You are living in Woodbridge right now, right?
Yeah, Woodbridge, but I float up to Toronto like all the time.
All the time. So you're pretty
So,
much here most
Yeah,
of the time. I guess.
and then I have a girlfriend in Barrie, so I'm also there all the time.
Damn,
so.
okay, so
a lot of
you're
driving, a lot of a lot of gas money.
Oh, it sounds like it, man. Jeez.
You know.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, man. Cool. Thank you for a little bit of background. It's just so, like, you know, the audience listening can get a bit more,
Get an idea of.
you know, who's on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of the that it's like, okay, so that existentialist guy is from Toronto, Woodbridge, and Barrie. Yeah, good. All right, good.
All right.
On the same page.
Covered this. Yeah. It's just, you know, just a base level for the people, like,
Yeah.
who are listening to the episode. Because, you know, I have all these guests come on and stuff, right? So it's like,
Right.
you're getting an inside look at someone's perspective of mental health, right? So I think it's important to create a baseline so people like go, oh, okay, so this is who he is as like base level person.
Right.
Now I kind of understand like where his life journey might, like where he's gonna take us on his life journey.
Yeah.
Through the conversation. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because like like I just had Leo on the last episode.
Great guy. I'm just gonna
Oh,
throw it
amazing,
out there.
dude.
He's
Another connection we
awesome.
have.
Yeah. Another. Yeah. He comes to. I recently saw him. I recently saw
Yeah.
him at the last show I did, and he's always a good guy.
Yeah, no,
Always
he's
a
great
good hang.
dude. It's funny how we were. It's funny. In the last episode with Leo, we were actually just talking about like how small the world actually is,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
and like it just seems like you know somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
know?
No, it's true. It's funny because it's like I think I heard somewhere where it was like the 6 degrees or 7 degrees or so of separation. Was
Yeah,
that?
literally.
Where like anybody in the world via 6
Can be,
degrees,
like,
and then you're thinking you're like impossible, no
Yeah,
chance.
yeah.
Right? I'm like I don't know anybody in India, and then I'm like wait a second, yes I do. I have a friend of mine that she lives here.
Mm-hmm.
She has relatives in India.
Yep.
So I'm like that's only like what is that 2 degrees
2-3 degrees
to meet
separation.
like all of her family, and now
Yep.
how many people there know whoever? So I'm like, wow,
It
I know
really
I'm
is.
so close to Bollywood stars. It's ridiculous.
I'm actually shooting one next week. That's
no,
awesome.
but it's true. It's like it's wild. So when
Right?
you think about it like
Like-
that, it's like wow, we're actually really closely connected, and it's an interesting
wild,
thing.
because like I knew Nicole before even knowing you,
Yeah,
and she was my connection to you.
yeah,
But then we started talking and hanging out and playing shows together, and I realized that you know fucking Ian, Leo,
yeah. Like literally, like
Alessandro Montelli, like
oh yeah, totally.
like it goes, the rabbit hole goes
Yeah,
down. It's
yeah.
just like what, dude?
It
Like
just keeps going.
it's crazy, man. But like, you know what warms my heart too, Dan, is that
Yeah.
like, oh, I just called you Dan. That's weird.
Yeah, my girlfriend calls me
Danny boy.
Dan. That's-
Sorry, I'm not your girlfriend.
Whoa.
I
just
stepped
had
into territory there.
I was like a confusion just for a second there.
We're not there yet. Don't worry. Danny boy. There you go. I'll call you Danny boy.
Beautiful.
That'll be my nickname for you.
Fantastic.
Off camera, we were talking. Sorry, context. Off camera, we were talking about the different identities that Daniel has
Yeah.
and different names.
Yeah,
You know, you
nicknames and different, like,
Your given name is Daniele.
Daniele Monticelli. That's the
That sounds
thing.
great.
I know it sounds cool, but nobody could spell it.
That
That's
sounds
why
like
I had
a
to change
delicious
it.
pasta dish.
Well, that's the problem. it sounds like everybody's searching up Daniele Monticelli, expecting delicious.
pasta.
Yeah.
You're like, yum yum.
Yeah, exactly. So
Maybe
I
some
had
kind of
I had
cheese.
to change it to Daniel Monte because the spelling of my actual name was butchered so much,
Yeah.
like ridiculous amount. So I'm like, okay, let me
simplify it.
just simplify it. And then all of a sudden, Monte is getting freaking butchered anyway. So I'm like, what did I do?
It's not that hard.
There's
Come
no.
on.
Oh yeah, no. There's a lot of people that end it with an I, A, Y. They put at the end.
What?
Yeah.
No. Get out of here with that shit.
No.
And then
But
also
anyway.
Dan.
And then my girlfriend calls me Dan.
Yeah.
So
So I'm gonna call you Danny Boy,
sounds good.
and that'll be
That'll
our
be-
thing.
Yeah, perfect.
That'll create another fucking subsection of.
So what do I call it? Tay Tay?
Dude, go for it. That's great. I mean, a lot of people call me Tay Tay, but yeah.
Damn it! All right, no, I gotta
You gotta come
come
up with something unique.
Okay. I gotta.
You'll think of something.
Gotta think of it.
It'll happen
It'll
within this podcast, I'm sure.
That's all right.
I'm
I'll
like,
try.
now the whole time you'll be like,
Yeah, it's like you're asking me a question. I'm just gonna be thinking, okay, Taylor, lower. What do I do?
I forgot where I was going. The segue with that.
Yeah, we completely.
Oh, it was heart. I was gonna say it was heartwarming because of the connections that you and I have, because of the connections that it just seems like everyone in this like Toronto music scene has, and like wherever community you're a part of, right?
Yeah.
It's just so heartwarming to me that like everyone has these connections, and like the people that I know that I consider close friends, like you guys, are all so chill and like supportive of each other.
Yeah, of course.
You
I
know,
think-
you came out to my show and you like had a great time, and like you were like, dude, you killed it, and like I came out to your show and I was like, dude, this is like we just got each other's backs.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
I just feel
exactly.
like-
As I think, and I think that's also a reason why we probably all connect in that way. You know what I mean? Because what is it? What, birds of a feather flock together? Did I completely botch that?
I think
or is
that's
that it?
I think that's the phrase. Yeah.
That's the phrase, right? So it makes sense that we're not around a bunch of assholes, basically, put it that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sure we've all had our hand of meeting people like that. But
Oh,
again,
yeah, of
it's
course.
like it's one of those things, and that's part of life.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. You're going to meet people that you probably either don't vibe with, or are maybe they might be going through something or whatever it
You
is.
never
But at the
know.
end of the day, you're treated probably less favorable than you'd like to be,
Yeah.
and then you move past that, right? And obviously, me, you, Nicole, Ian, we're not assholes. We're not like that.
No.
We all kind of vibe together.
Not
so.
self-proclaimed assholes, anyways. But
Well, yeah, we could be assholes. I'm not sure.
I
actually.
don't know.
In the comments, let us know.
Let us know if we're
We're
assholes.
assholes.
Yeah, we just got a poll going.
Yeah, Paul. 77% it says.
Ah, shit.
Yeah,
I thought I was a nice guy this whole time.
yeah,
No, but
Anyway.
it's just like, I think it just goes back to like we all come from the same place. We're all like super passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
I think we can see that in each other.
right.
You know, I was saying to Leo in the last episode, like passion respects passion.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And I think that we can all see that drive in each other.
In different art forms, I might add.
Oh, totally. Like I'm
Right?
just like keeping it niche for our situation because it's like
But
music,
even
but like
Leo's a photographer.
Photographer,
right?
exactly.
So, and
True,
I
true,
know,
true, yeah,
and
it
I
expands.
work with great videographers and like filmmakers that I'm like, you can sense that passion, you can feel that passion,
yeah,
and it just like locks things closer together. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it makes. I don't know. It's weird when it's a different kind of bond.
it
When
really
you're like
is.
when you bond through various like admiration for passion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And not
Right?
just like, my mind is sticking in like the art forms.
Right.
Like, even outside of that too, I'm sure. You know, like
Yeah,
whatever
passion
passion,
for-
you're into, like
Well, I have friends of mine that are like doing med school, very passionate
There you go.
about med
Like,
school,
yeah.
and they're like some of my closest friends.
right?
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like yeah, that's an interesting thing. That's an interesting like means of connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like doing this podcast, especially, is like giving me a new sense of perception on human connectivity.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
actually,
Like, I was like, again, like I've talked about this a couple times with other past guests on the show, of like, I don't think I fully understood the randomification seems like it's negative connotation, like the happy accidents or happy side effects of doing this.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had people come on the show, like you and I are good friends, but like I haven't seen you that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have respect
Yeah, yeah.
for each other.
Yeah,
And
of
I
course.
would consider you a friend, obviously, but like we don't hang out all the time.
Right. Of course.
But I'm about to get to know you on a fucking level that
That's
a
what I
lot
was
of
gonna
people
say. I
don't,
was gonna
right?
say with this podcast, every single person that walks in here, I mean, we'll see at the end of this podcast.
Sure,
how
of course.
it goes,
Yeah.
right?
Let's not preface it
Right,
anyway, yeah.
but I would imagine that everybody walks out with that stronger bond. You know what
honestly,
I mean?
dude, like everyone
So-
I've ever interviewed on this podcast, it's like I have just a much better understanding of their life.
Yeah.
Because how often do you sit down like this
Right.
with a focused agenda of a conversation like this, right? And like some of these people that I found on the show, I've met maybe twice in my whole life,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
they agreed to come on, and like now we're talking about this, and it's like I get a glimpse within their life so
Yeah.
quickly like that, right?
And so does the audience too, which is great too. That's like a
Exactly.
whole other like extension.
Yeah,
of-
and that's
of
the whole like
connection,
happy
yeah.
accident, happy side effect thing I was going to talk
Right.
about. Like it's happening to me in real time right now
Mhm.
with the guests I have on, but I
Right.
I forget about the audience
The audience
watching and
there,
listening,
yeah.
right? Because to me, it's just you and me in a room right now having
Yeah.
a conversation. But I have this platform set up to like have people come in, like a fly in the wall, basically, you know,
Right.
and like kind of like enter into this portal of Daniel and Taylor's minds. you
Yeah,
know?
and it's got to be. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to just have like, because again, when we look at the comments too, and we look at all those things, and we kind of see, you know, I mean, I've had it. I'm sure you've had it. Where you see that it resonates with some people,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I've actually like I've connected through a computer screen. I've connected
Yeah.
through this like audio device
Right.
with this person.
Just a conversation.
Yeah, and it's just so it's very, very cool. It's
Yeah.
very cool. And I think that's what we all kind of I think part of it as artists, we strive for that. We strive for that
Absolutely.
connection
Yeah.
through this media, right?
I mean,
this
that's
medium.
all encompassing to me, at least, as an artist.
Right.
I mean, every artist is different, obviously, but like for
Right.
me, making that human connection is everything.
Yeah.
Like I'm just out here with my heart on my sleeves trying to tell my story.
Mhm.
And if people give a shit to listen to it for 10 seconds and like get anything out of it, I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and like
Yeah,
a cool like side effect of this podcast that I was not anticipating was that like because of the subject matter, it touches people in a way.
Mhm.
You know? So like I've had previous guests on like season 1 and season 2 message me like a month or two after the episode comes out, and they go, dude, like since that episode's come out, I've had like 5 or 6 people reach out to me and be like, hey, I've been through like similar things, and like I'm proud
Wow.
of you for doing that, and like I'm gonna start doing better because of it.
Wow. So that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, then I've had people message me and go like, dude, your podcast has like helped me out of a fucking dark place.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's
That's
like-
that's a really like yeah, exactly. I don't even know. There's no words to describe that. That's got to be.
It just makes me so humbled and grateful to
Yeah.
even be considered in that light at all.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what started. I started this podcast in COVID time, right?
Right.
Because I
yeah.
saw an opportunity to connect with people in the
Mm-hmm.
in the time where you couldn't connect at all,
Right.
right? And so like I talked to you off camera about this, but like my whole thing was just like, especially at that time, mental health was such a huge thing, and it still
Yeah,
is.
yeah, of course. Well, there's always the residual COVID too. Eh? It's not like, you know, your mental health during COVID. It's not like, okay, things are open now, and everybody was just like, whoop, all right.
Right? Like
You know what I mean? It's
Everyone's
like-
still suffering.
Yeah. It's still an ongoing effect.
Oh, absolutely it is. So it's like I saw the opportunity to like try to create my own slice of the pie to help any way that I could, and
Yeah.
create this like safe platform to break that stigma and to have open conversations about mental health and like
Right.
make it more accessible to people that maybe can't talk about it.
Yeah.
They can
No,
come
exactly.
here in this space and be with us and feel safe and heard.
Yeah.
You know, and be like, oh, fucking Daniel went through that shit, or Taylor went through that shit, or any of my past guests went through that shit. Like,
Yeah. No,
and
exactly.
they're here talking about it. You know, I don't know. Sorry, I'm like a tangent right now, but like,
No, it's true because it's like that's what this is about. That's what we're trying to do. Like that's why like when you asked me to come on and talk, I was like, yeah, I mean this is really cool. Like it's like
Yeah.
let's do it. Like it's a cool opportunity. And I've been asked to do podcasts and I've been asked to do you know, different radio interviews and things like that. And it's very it's very music artist based, right? Which is
Sure.
why what happened when I started this podcast, I was like, gotta go into the artist thing. I'm an
Yeah.
artist and this is what I do. And then you're like, who are you as a person? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, nobody's actually asked me that.
Wow.
It's like, who am I?
yeah, dude, yeah, that's
So-
it's a great joy
Yeah.
of, and I like thank you for saying that, dude. That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, of course.
But I've had a lot of people come out with that and be like, this was so, like nurturing and like reassuring having this conversation with you. And I'm like, thank you. That's all I'm trying to do is just have a conversation, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's not corporate. It's not fucking like, I'm not trying to push an agenda. Like,
yeah,
you know,
no,
like
exactly.
it's just, I'm just trying to connect.
So you're right. Anyway, 2024, vote for Taylor Simpson. It's like,
I'll run for prime minister. Fuck it, let's
yeah,
go.
do it. Yeah, let's go.
I feel like the world would be an interesting place if I was in that power.
Yeah. You know what? Don't, because then there's corruption in that world.
Yeah,
and
I don't want to be part of that world.
Don't be part of that world.
I like being in my bedroom with my friends, talking about stuff I care about.
Yeah, I don't want you to go down the corruption path.
Yeah, no.
So for all of us,
we're already
don't
in
get
a
into
fucking
politics.
career that's corrupted enough.
Never mind, honestly.
You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
let's stay out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, man, thanks for breaking down Daniel for us and humoring my podcast pitch.
Dude,
even though this is season 3.
Thanks for having me. Are you kidding? I was genuinely like driving down here. There's so much traffic, and I'm like, I'm still so happy that I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna hang out with Taylor. I'm gonna, shoot the shit on video. I'm like, it's gonna be great.
Hi. No, it's gonna be good, dude. Okay,
Yeah.
so I like to ask the guests before we get into the mental health stuff,
Sure.
how they're feeling today. Are they feeling comfortable? Are they feeling safe? Are they like open and willing to discuss stuff about their mental health? And like, just we're living in 2023. Consent's important.
Yeah, no, I've been in, like, recently I've been in a very good spot. A lot of good stuff has happened, so I'm feeling great. And you're fucking always easy to talk to. And, I mean, look at this room. This shouts comfort, so, yeah.
The skeleton on the wall.
Yeah, well,
comfort.
I mean, listen.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah, I love it. It's
That's
great.
perfect. If that comforts you, we're gonna be good friends.
No, I'm comforted. I'm good to talk about whatever it is that we want to talk about.
I love that. Perfect. So, Daniel, let's start with the, just the base level question. Do you struggle or deal with any mental health illnesses, traits, symptoms?
In what sense? Like, just like on a normal human level? Because I mean, everybody has anxiety. Everybody has,
just like talk about it openly, like how
how
you think it affects you.
I will say that I think I've been incredibly fortunate with my situation, where I haven't had to go on medication for anything. I haven't had to, it's not to a point where it's what's that word?
Debilitating.
Debilitating. Thank you.
Got you.
So I've been incredibly fortunate in that situation. But of course, I have anxiety. I'm like, I think it just comes with the idea of, and I think essentially as I'm getting older, I'm 26. Mm-hmm. I'm not young, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
you're also not 30.
Yeah, but I'm getting there. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's like, it's on your mind.
Sure.
So like recently, like in the last couple of years, anxiety inducing. I've had panic attacks where it's like I don't really usually have panic attacks.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to do this thing that is like, it's like just a world of like uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, in terms of mental health issues, I mean, you're always dealing with it in a certain capacity. I've been close to burnout multiple times.
Yeah, that's real, dude.
Yeah, it is. And, but it's like I've never been in a situation where I couldn't get myself out of, and I'm super thankful for that.
That's great, man.
But yeah, that's summarized like my situation.
It's always interesting hearing people like, I view it as like a spectrum. I think everybody deals with mental health in a certain capacity.
Absolutely, yeah.
And whether that capacity is full or
we're human.
slightly empty.
It's part of being human. That's what it is.
It's a human spectrum, right? Like, it's like, anybody that says they don't deal with mental health is like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's like everybody, yeah, no,
you either
exactly.
refuse to see it or you just haven't seen it yet. But everyone deals with it on some certain level.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's important, because I've had people say that, like, their issues aren't as important as other people's issues. And it's like, people need to realize that we're all individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have collectives and communities, and we share similarities, obviously, with other people. But like, and the art of comparison is very hard not to do. Obviously, that's social media and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're individuals.
Yeah.
And we have our own path and our own life that we live through.
Right.
And our experiences are valid to us. And whatever mental health attributes to that is also valid. It doesn't make it less or more than any other person.
No, it's relative. Listen, if you're having a bad day because of, whatever, something happened at work, and you're having a crappy day, it's unfair not to be heard or let yourself be heard in that sense. You know what I mean? Like if you go, as an example, you go home and you talk to your girlfriend. You're like, I'm just upset because this and this and this, and then she tells you, oh, shut up, stop being a baby and grow up. That's like, what the that's really not unhealthy. Fair. That's really unhealthy, right? Yeah. It's not fair. Like, and I'm not saying that's like, I'm trying to take something where it's like it's a minor day-to-day thing. It's not like an ongoing thing. It's still just as valid as something that's ongoing. It's something that you want to talk about, something Absolutely. That you have to vent about.
Of course.
And because I know specifically in my life and in where it's like I don't have this ongoing thing that I'm dealing with, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's little things that stack up, and when they stack up, that's a tower. It's a proper tower. Yeah. So if you are keep thinking in a way where it's not valid to feel what you're feeling at those little small steps, because they are small steps, and you're going, I can get whatever, right? Toss it aside because it's just a small thing. I'm not dealing with so and so, right?
Sure.
Then you're just letting that tower build. Yeah. Until the point where it's like Jenga
and it might become a real fucking problem.
Yeah. Genuinely, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't think there is this is not a situation in which you should be doing it where you're relating it to other people. Or what did you said the word?
Art of comparison.
Art of comparison. So look at that. You're completing my sentences. It's great.
So
I love it. But yeah.
No, but yeah, I'm glad you agree with that one, because I've had people come on and I'm not going to name names obviously, but and they're that's just, it's a societal thing too. We're just ingrained to think this way, and that's the whole point of why I'm trying to push against it. Yeah. We need to be talking about it. People that feel like they don't have something to talk about, I've had people that I've reached out to do the show, and they've straight up tell me they're like, Taylor, I don't know, man. I don't even know what I would talk about. Yeah. And I'm like, do you not feel anything? Are you telling me you're a fucking robot?
Well, do you know? And I will say, in the sense of when you first asked me, I was like, oh, that sounds really cool, and I'd love to do it, but I'm like, am I the right person to ask? And right, that did come to my mind of
totally normal to feel that way.
Am I gonna be I'm like, should I bring Antonio here, and maybe he can also maybe two of us can kind of help out. Mm-hmm. And anyway, Antonio would have come, by the way, but he was busy. No worries. But you know what? I'm like, do you know what? No, I think I can have something to say about this, and I think there is something to my situation where it's not this big diagnosed thing, mm-hmm. and there's a lot of people out there that don't have this big diagnosed thing, and I'm probably thinking well, this is for them. Basically, I figured this is for them because it is just as important.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. No, that's a good point to make. You're a good representation of probably. Hopefully the majority of the audience, or not, sorry, audience, but the majority of the population. Yeah. Right? I hope that the stats are low with mental health, but I'm sure it's skyrocketed since COVID. Yeah. But there are people out there that are probably at the same level as you, where they probably think, oh, I don't have any,
right, exactly.
I get anxious here and there, but, it's no, right. That's valid, dude.
If you wake it's a valid thing.
If you wake up feeling anxious about something, you probably have anxiety. And that's a mental health thing.
Yeah. And it's something you got to figure out how to
manage
with, and how to manage. And it's I've been going through that for the last realistically 2 years, let's say. Right. Of okay, I do have a sense of anxiety. I do have I do get stressed out. That it's kind of said cheekily, at the beginning, but I'm a very stressed out individual. Yeah. Because I just tend to take on a lot. Mm-hmm. And I need to, and I've been learning how to manage a lot. Right? And that's just as important. It's very important. I think stress is the number one killer. I was actually I was listening to a podcast a while back, and now again, I don't know how I'm going to say this, but I don't know how much scientific accuracy there is to this.
Go for it.
But the discussion was the debate between having a cigar a day or a cigar a week. I think it was a cigar, whatever. Having leisurely cigars. Sure. Being actually better for you than without the cigars because of the stress. Because when you have a cigar, you're there for 15 minutes, you do nothing but smoke that cigar and have a drink, and you de-stress. And they were saying that there's actually more longevity in the lack of stress rather than the tobacco and nicotine killing you.
True. Huh.
That's what the discussion was. Like, how bad is the stress? Essentially, it boils down to, like, is stress worse or better than having a cigar a week? Right?
Yeah.
Like, the actual, like, physical effects of that.
Yeah, because you're right. You're like, when you're in that, you're focused on that task, and you're not stressed out about everything else around you.
And I've had my share of cigar. Have you ever smoked a cigar?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I will say, it has a relaxing effect, right?
It does.
But all of this is to say that we've been so focused on, like, in general, like my upbringing. I mean, I think anybody's upbringing, on the physical effects of so and so.
Sure.
Smoking's bad for you. Don't smoke. It's bad for you, right? Yeah. It's gonna kill you. You're gonna lose your life, right? Mm-hmm. You're gonna lose years of your life, right?
Sure.
Okay. Don't do anything too crazy because it's dangerous and all these different things.
Yeah.
But nobody talks about, hey, stress is gonna kill you. You gotta stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's not
it's
really
the
a thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like in school, I remember, it's just funny because it's like, smoking's bad for you. Now write a 100-page paper on why smoking's bad for you, and this is for tomorrow. And you're like fucking stressed out. And you're going, oh my god. So it's like, okay, wait a second. So the stress is okay, but the
smoking's not, like,
it's like, I think we should equate them at the same, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Like they're both killing people.
Literally.
Right. So just an interesting little thing. I remember that because I listened to it and I was like, fuck yeah, that's actually
it's
like
stuck
a
with
good.
you.
And I've listened to this is like 5 years ago.
It's still
it's still stuck with me. I'm like, oh yeah.
I mean, it's a good point though, man. Like, and stress can manifest physically.
100%. I've experienced that multiple times.
You can have
recently
ulcers. You can have all kinds of stuff happen.
I will say recently, I think it's affected me because I was little story time.
Go for it, dude.
So July 23rd was the release of my album.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out on Spotify and all that.
Oh, we'll plug it in. Don't worry.
But anyway,
yeah, check it out.
Check it out. No, but we basically, there's a lot of like, I don't have a manager, I don't have anything like that. So it was me and Antonio that were setting up the show, and we did it as you know, at a theater show, right? There were a lot of moving parts. There was a lot of like set design, and then we got to figure out the lighting cues, and then we got to get, the click track and the musicians and the performance, and then selling all the tickets, and it was a lot of stress, I will say.
Yeah.
And I remember 2 weeks, no, maybe a week before the show, I started to get sick. I started to get sick, and it wasn't like, it was like short-lived like sicknesses. And it was weird because it was like I got, I had like, a cough, cold, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, I got to rest for a day. And I rest for a day, drank a ton of water. The next day I was okay. I'm like back at it because I have to be back at it. It's like time's ticking down, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going, we do a rehearsal, whatever it was. And then my throat starts to go again. I'm like, I got to rest. So I quickly rest for like a day.
Yeah.
Come back to it. And I go and do the show. The day after the show, it was like, now your body's time to like not be too adrenaline filled and like have to work. I got sick.
Yeah.
And then I had Jazz Fest. So I was like, rest. And then I had to go. And then I was able to do Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
Then I got body chills and like a fever. And then I'm like, and then it's like, it kept going until like literally like, a few days ago, like I just got over another like cold and like cough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the shit? Like I was annoyed by it. I'm going, what the hell is the problem here? So I started asking some people and asking doctors. That's what it was.
Sorry.
Honestly, but that's what it is, right? It was like you didn't give yourself a chance to just rest, to just not stress about things.
Yeah, and it made you weak.
And it makes you physically weak. And I'm still, like, realistically getting over that because it's like I have other things coming up that, like, I have to be ready for. So it's like I was sick, 2 days ago, and I'm like, go get better. And now I'm fine. I'm like, we got to do this podcast. We're good to do this. We got to do that. And then I got another show, and I'm just like, I'm gonna. And that's how you burn out.
Yeah, man. And burnout is part of, burnout creates anxiety.
Yeah. And it is connected to your actual, like, life and your health.
Your mental well-being.
It's not something that's separated from physical. It really isn't. No. And a lot of people think it's something that's like, oh, just get over it. Stop thinking about it.
Yeah, no.
But it's not like that.
No.
You can't just, like, when you're obsessed with or like overly like anxious about something. It's not just stop thinking about it.
That's not how that works.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right?
Anxiety plagues your mind.
Yeah, I'm going to also take this off. It's
Yeah,
freaking
go for it, dude.
boiling in here.
It's getting hot in here. Take off all your clothes.
Change. This is going to turn into a different podcast. No.
Yes, it is. Look away, viewers.
But yeah.
Yeah, totally, man.
That's what I think about that. Anyway.
Okay. So that being said, I think you touched upon it already, but I'll ask just in case.
Yeah.
With the anxiety and stuff, and like, it sounds like the maybe not so much hyperfixation, but just like, it sounds like you deal with a lot of like stress-induced anxiety.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, like, you realizing that and like you dealing with that on a not daily basis, but
No, I mean, sometimes it becomes that.
Daily basis. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Would you ever consider a diagnosis if it got to that point? Like, would you look out for one, or would you start seeing a therapist? Or
a part of me thinks, and I'm going to tell you another story, and I think that certain diagnosing too early, I think, is a danger.
Sure. Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because people are very they like to categorize things, and once you categorize things, immediately you're thinking in that capacity, right, of
Sure.
what that means. So I mean, okay, let me put it this way. Growing up, right, I was categorized. Now this seems like a positive thing. It really isn't, and I'll tell you why. I was categorized in grade 5 or 4 or whatever it was as gifted, right?
Okay.
So I was a gifted kid.
In what sense?
It's basically like your IQ is higher, and you know,
Okay,
you can do more work and do more things.
You're
right?
more like academically inclined.
Yeah. It's basically they take a bunch of grade 4s, make them write a language test, a math test, and then do psychological testing, and then they tell you whether or not you're above or below average to at a certain degree. And then if you are above to a certain degree, they say, wow, congratulations, you're gifted. And they stick you in a class with a bunch of gifted kids. Right?
Okay.
I lived from grade 5 to grade 12 with these gifted kids.
Interesting.
Right.
That's a complex right there.
So the problem is, what happens is, and I it wasn't until university where I was back in it with, everybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just for reference, I did 2 years of science at U of T before doing music.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
So I went to do science. And even that alone was like, okay, I mean, because I was gifted, I had to do something intellectual. So music has a stigma of not being intellectual.
Does it?
In a sense. Compared to science, compared to becoming a doctor.
I guess you're coming from that world, yeah.
Right. So there was this, and I specifically remember we had like a gifted, what was it called? Man, I keep forgetting words here. Maybe I'm having a stroke.
You and me both. But
Yeah, but like a coordinator, I was almost like somebody to guide you through, guidance counselor, essentially.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But specifically for the gifted kids.
Okay.
She was heavily steering me away from music. Because I was like, hey, I was thinking, I really love music, and I think I'm able to achieve something with that, like build a life with that.
Yeah.
And she's going, yeah, no, you should be doing something in STEM. I'm like, yeah, like I know I could.
Yeah.
But like, what about music? And I was like, no, you got to do something in STEM. And then all my, like friends at the time, like I remember there was one person, and again, it stuck with me, and this is grade 12. Hey, this is a while back.
Yeah.
Where she's like, if you don't do science, it's like you're wasting. You're like a waste, basically.
Whoa.
Right?
Jesus
so there was a lot
Christ.
of that. And why? Because of the label gifted.
Yeah.
Right?
You had that like expectation put on you at an early age.
Right. And
like,
from grade 5, I lived with that.
You're like put in this box of like, okay, you're good at this, therefore you need to be doing this.
And because of the word, I fucking hate the word gifted alone. I
So
fucking
many
hate it.
Connotations.
Dude, I wish they abolished that completely.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
then I had friends in grade 4, right, that weren't gifted.
Yeah.
And they saw me as like, oh, he's like the better one, fucking, and they completely like I
abandoned you. Yeah.
from grade 4 to like I hung out with these guys from like grade 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Grade 5, they were fucking nowhere to be found. So it's
so
like
crazy, man.
Whoa. And why? It's not like I changed. It's not like Daniela was
you're
different.
the same person.
I'm the same person.
Yeah.
But the labels changed.
I feel like that's a weird societal thing too.
But
like,
the thing is,
so much like I get the point you're trying to make. I think is like, don't jump to conclusions right away because it could cause
because it can cause issues. And I have on the other side of the scale. Anyway, I'll just say anyway, I have a person I know. I'll just call it that. Person I've known for a long time. He has an LD, so he got the other side of the thing. All right, he got the situation where now, oh, he's an LD. He's stupid.
Yeah, he's slower.
Whereas if they just can abolish the label.
Yeah.
Don't talk about the label. Just talk about the problem.
Yeah,
I have trouble reading. Let's work on that.
Let's work on that. Yeah.
Right. I have trouble getting out of my thoughts at night. Let's work on that. Don't put a label on it. I don't like that idea of putting a label on it. And I know because in two vastly different like sides of the spectrum, gifted and like learning disability, right?
Yeah.
The issue was the same, and the issue was that of the label. And that's why I have a very different opinion on that. Then a lot of people are like, yeah, get diagnosed because you need the help and you need people need to know and there's validity there.
Yeah,
there is validity to that.
Sure. There's validity to both.
Right, but
I
from my experience, from my upbringing, and what I've seen as being in a label, like I was categorized, I was put in a box.
Yeah, totally.
And I know somebody else that was put in a completely different box, and we share similar upbringing. And it's like looking back on it, it's not a happy memory. You know what I mean? It's not like it's like I look at my childhood, and I'm like, that was so great.
Like you didn't you got gifted, and you're like, oh, I'm gifted, but then like everything else like went away basically.
Yeah, and most of the people that I know that were gifted with me, like one of my buddies, again, since grade 5, right? We've known each other for well over a decade. And, he's like, I fucking hated that. I hated the fact that we were that.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't start living until we were past grade 12 because it was finally no more box.
You kind of outgrew that fucking...
Right, this is the first time I told you that I was labeled as gifted.
Yeah.
Because I don't need that.
I wouldn't have thought differently of you anyways.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't need that.
You don't need to be put,
right?
For sure.
So
I think if I could counterpoint for a second about the labels, I think with mental health, I think it's a bit different, if I may say, because I feel like this can go both ways, right? Like I never am going to force anybody to go do something they don't want to do.
Right.
And one option is not more valid than the other. Like, if you don't want to seek a diagnosis, you don't have to. Like, if you feel like you have it under control and, like, you know what it is to you, it doesn't have to have a label, obviously, but, like, it sounds like it's anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You can face it on your own, but, like, just know that you have the support there if you need it.
Right, and I think that's the difference. Like, I was forced. Everybody was forced to get that label.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You were forced to write the exams. We all did it together, and everybody was, it was a mandatory thing.
Yeah, and you were so young too that like you didn't have much of a say in it even.
Right, exactly. It was just I'm writing another test. Okay, let me just write this test.
But now, like you've reached an age where it's like, if you wanted a diagnosis, you can go.
And that's the way I feel about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I feel about diagnoses. Diagnoses,
I think.
Diagnosis.
Yeah.
In general, the way I think about it is, if you are to a point where you need help, get help.
Yes.
Like don't not get help.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. But if you are at a point where you're just having the anxiety, depression, and things like that, try to talk to people people you love. Mm-hmm. Talk to them first, before jumping the gun, so to speak.
Sure.
But it is a real thing. A lot of people need that, right?
Absolutely.
And I think they know when they need that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should be telling anybody to there's experiences with other people. Again, I don't want to mention names or but people that I know where they are told that they should go talk to somebody and they're not comfortable talking to somebody yet.
Yeah.
But they're like almost forced to. Mm-hmm. And that's
from a negative place.
Yeah, and it comes from exactly. You're not seeking out help. You're being forced to seek out help. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I guess it depends on the situation. If it's
For
a
sure.
severe enough situation where it's like,
If they're on the verge of, you know,
right, I hate even saying it, but yes, if they're on the verge of something drastic, then
absolutely.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, I have mixed. Essentially, just to summarize it, I have
Sure.
mixed feelings on putting yourself in a and getting a diagnosis.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's totally valid, man.
yeah.
I've told all of my guests in the show, like, I get such a wide spectrum of answers for this question. I'm just
Right.
fascinated.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, I got a diagnosis when I was 13.
Hmm.
I have OCD, anxiety, and depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I legitimately have all those three because I know what the symptoms are. Like,
Right.
and so to flip the script a little bit from my point of view so you can hear what from
Sure,
my
yeah.
standpoint, if I didn't get that diagnosis when I was young, I think I would not be able to be where I am now without it. Because I got the diagnosis when I was young, and some people don't.
Right.
Because of maybe they didn't realize it, or they didn't have access to it, or for multiple reasons, right? And they did get it much later in life.
Right.
And then it kind of sets them back a bit because now they've developed with it for so long that it's harder to break out of.
Right.
Whereas if you find it from the beginning and you get the diagnosis, and I'm not saying the diagnosis in the end all be all. I'm just saying for me, in my experience, I got the diagnosis when I was 13. That put me down a path of, okay, I know what this is now. There's a face, there's a name to the face.
Right.
And now I can go, okay, what do I do to move forward from now? Like, how do I cope with this better?
Okay, can I ask, how did you get the diagnosis? Like, was it like you approached somebody and were like, I
went
how
to
did
a child therapist.
But a little bit, how did you get there? Was it your parents that were like, you have to go, or was it you that were
Well,
like,
so what happened to me was, like, my parents passed away
oh,
when I was really young.
Yeah.
I lost my mom when I was 13, and my dad when I
shit.
was 10.
I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that brought on a lot of
Yeah.
trauma and a lot of my brain chemistry getting absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
And, like, coming up with these irrational ways to deal with it, right?
Right.
That's kind of what mental health kind of is.
That's what a lot of it is,
It's
yeah.
an irrational way of dealing with a trauma that you can't handle.
Right.
To my extent, at least. So when I was 13, my mom passed away, I began to lash out and be very angry and explosive and
Yeah.
understandably, obviously. And so I went to a child therapist, and they recommended to go see a doctor, and then that's when I was diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm thankful for it because, yes, it was hard to be told at 13 years old that you have 3 fucking mental health illnesses,
Yeah.
and like, I've barely even started life at that point.
Did they put you on medication?
Yeah.
Right, immediately?
Not immediately. It was over the course of like a year.
A year. Okay.
They let it play out to see like
Right.
which one would need the most medication, right?
Right.
Out of the 3 of them, because I had
Yeah.
I showed signs of all 3,
Right.
and so they kind of the way I view it when I was younger, and it still kind of sticks to this day, is like, do you know those like Shining twins
Yeah.
from the Stanley Kubrick film?
Yeah. Yeah.
So imagine triplets.
Yeah.
It's like that, but in my brain. It's depression, anxiety, and OCD, and they all get along, and they all hold hands, and they fucking dance around my brain and cause
Right.
havoc, right? So that's the way I kind of like envisioned it when I was younger. So it was just a matter of like how, with the medication, how do I cope with getting through this? Like, how do I deal with this better? And so it kind of gave me, I was obviously too young to understand fully, but like as I got older, it kind of gave me clairvoyancy as to what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
So I'm not an advocate for or against. I'm just saying, like, it was important to me.
Yeah.
So I understand the validity
And
of diagnosis.
Right. And I think the label for you in that situation, because again, that is a very traumatic, rare thing to happen to somebody. And I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you.
But, and I just wanted to say, like, it's like, you know, at that point you need guidance in some sense. In some capacity, you need to have some sort of guidance.
Yeah.
So having those, you know, again, those that, like, it sounds silly, but the 3, like, you know, Shining twins, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I know, like, that is your guidance to be like, okay, I'm just dealing with these 3 things.
Yeah.
So it's an easier way to, like, approach it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you're just, like, as a 13-year-old without any, you know, real parental guidance to deal with like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be, you know, that would be a very, I don't think it would be possible. You know what I mean?
It wouldn't be.
Right.
Because if I didn't get, I don't really like using the term label as what you've been saying. Not to cause friction. I'm just openly talking.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like the term label. I think a diagnosis is a medical condition.
Right.
Right. It's not so much a label. It's putting a face to the name of what the symptoms are showing inside you. Right. So I'm not trying to.
No. I think we just come from two different
backgrounds
of what it was. Because for me, it felt like a label. It didn't feel like it didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was like
benefiting you at all.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And same thing with the person that had the LD.
The opposite. Yeah.
Right. It was treated more as a label rather than
it was a hindrance more than an accelerant.
Right. But in this situation, in your specific situation, I can see how that can be very like helpful to have a name to the face, as you were saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it just gave me like a direction.
A direction, exactly.
It was like, okay, I have this, got it.
Yeah.
But what do I do now?
Yeah.
And so like through medication, therapy, talking it out, like.
Right. So I think essentially we can come to the agreement of it's very important for situations that are very like, you know, grandiose almost, you know what I mean? Right?
Sure.
Whereas like my situation, you know, it wasn't something that I needed, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It wasn't something that I needed to have.
You don't feel like you're in a place where it's like.
Right. But like after hearing what, like I can imagine, like if I had that situation, like I'd probably want that too. And that's what I mean by it's like, you know, when.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
when you want something and when it can help. That's why I have mixed feelings about it, right?
Absolutely. And you're allowed to.
Yeah.
Like I've had doctors give wrong fucking diagnosis.
Which is dangerous.
You know, so it's like there isn't an exact science to this.
Yet. I think it will
I'm sure it'll get close.
And be closer, yeah.
Yeah, and like with time and you know, research and everything that we'll get there. But I think it is very contextual based, depending on the person involved.
Yeah.
For your case, it might not be as important, but for my case, it was.
Exactly.
Right? And so exactly anyone listening or viewing, like Daniel and I just talked out a great back and forth point of either side of the story, right? It could be a hindrance or it could be an accessor.
Right, and that's, exactly. And it's kind of a tricky line to walk on, to know when. And, but I feel like you know when you know.
Yeah, I think we can both agree
Yeah.
that like if it comes to a point where like you can't handle it on your own,
yeah,
you need to go.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with that. Yeah,
therapy is huge.
Yeah, it
for
is.
Anybody.
Well, they even have the online. Like I've never tried it, but the BetterHelp.
The BetterHelp, yeah.
BetterHelp, and I've seen a lot of like I actually follow a YouTuber, Cody Ko. I don't know.
Yeah, I know Cody Ko.
Yeah,
he's
great. I watch a lot of his videos, and he's very open about that. And it's like he just seems like a funny, witty guy that's like whatever. And you're like, oh, do you know what? Like you don't. It's not something that's like you shouldn't be embarrassed to be like I'm going to get talk to somebody.
Yeah,
so it is. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're just talking to someone. Like we right now
are doing.
yeah, exactly. Right.
This is in essence a therapy session.
So I think that and being online where you get to like choose, because I think through BetterHelp you get to choose like, and this is not sponsored by the way, but
hey, BetterHelp, if you're listening, please.
But like what's cool about it is the fact that like I think you can text. Like I don't think you have to be like
you can,
in person.
Methods.
It's like
you
there's different ways.
Call,
Exactly. You can choose the one that you feel most appropriate. You know.
Yeah, of course.
And
that's super important.
Which, like, I'm like I don't think, like I mean I'm not somebody that's like I gotta seek out help. But I'm like I would do BetterHelp. Yeah. I think I would. Like I think I'm going to just for the sake of just like being able to just be like, hey,
just have
what
somebody
what do you
there.
think of this? What do you Because a lot of the time, sometimes a third-party kind of outside perspective is interesting to have.
It's very important to have.
You can agree or disagree. It's not like everything they say is like gospel.
The end-all be-all, yeah.
Right? It's like it's something that you can like. It's just another perspective. It's just another thing that maybe you didn't think of.
Yes.
And when you talk to, I mean, again, I always think you should talk to people that are close to you, always, all right?
Of course.
But there is a limitation to that in the sense of they are in it kind of with you, you know? So it's like when there's somebody that's not there at all, yeah, right? It's like it's almost like they could just look at it as like, okay, this is what you've told me and this is what I think about it, and I'll do what you will with it, right? It's a danger, I think, when you follow it to the T. You know what I mean? Like when they tell you something, you should think about it and absorb it.
Yeah.
But don't just absorb without thought.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely process it, live with it.
Right.
Try certain aspects of whatever they told you.
Right, exactly. But it shouldn't be like that's the be all end all and that's what I must do.
Yes, of course.
You know what I mean? Anyway, again, I'm just speaking again from my perspective of my situation. Because that's all I can speak of. I don't know any more severe situations, right?
Of course, yeah.
So,
of course, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was great.
Good.
We got some coverage there.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
good. It's just interesting to me, like every guest I have on that we talk about that question, it raises so many different things, you know? Like, it's nice. All right, next question, Daniel.
Yeah.
So, we have 2 segments coming up later, but I want to get a better baseline before we get to those segments.
Sure, yeah.
With this question. So it basically, I like giving the audience a sort of timeline, if you will.
Okay.
Of maybe when you first started seeing the signs of this stress-induced anxiety or the anxious moments you've been experiencing.
Okay.
Maybe just walk us through like the earliest memories you have of dealing with your mental health, and then kind of like take us through what that looks like, and like to where you are now with it.
Right. Okay. The earliest memories I have realistically were like grade school, like grade 1 to 4, 5, 6, all that, right? Yeah. Elementary school. And the reason I'm saying there, it's not, again, it's like a different feeling, but like, again, I'm somebody who like takes something very, like everything I do I try to take as seriously as possible, in the sense of not like I just have no fun and I'm very serious, right? I mean in the sense of where if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it well.
Sure.
Right? I'm gonna try my best to get it done. Yeah, wholeheartedly put my all into it, right? But it got to a point when I was young, like I'm talking like grade 4 or whatever, I remember I, would get like a B, and I'd be distraught, bawling my eyes out. You know what I mean? Shit. I'd be like, a fucking B? Are you serious? Like I'm looking back on it now, and I'm like, wow, like that was like intense, right? The fact that it's like, you got an above average grade and you're still upset about it, and even to the point where I'd be upset if I got like an A and not an A+. You know what I mean? So it was like a lot of that.
That's stress even from that age.
At that age, right?
Yeah.
And because I knew I wanted to do, and again, that mentality is not necessarily a terrible thing, because that taught me to just put my heart and everything into something.
Sure.
Right?
Of course. But there's a balance, though.
Right. But what I didn't get was, at that time, was how to kind of prioritize the important things and try to be like, okay, I got a B on this assignment. Let me just do better. Yeah. And now I'm like, a difference in my mentality now is I'm always looking more to the journey of getting somewhere, because there's going to be failures. And as you get older, I find that there are more failures as you get older.
Absolutely.
Because when you're younger, there's no fucking responsibilities. There's nothing. It's like you do a spelling test and you have to spell. Yeah. It's like spell there in many different, like all the different ways. It's like that's not a big, like, burden.
Yeah. In the grand scale of life.
Right. But then when you start dealing with like all these different things, like relationships, and then just career, money, family, and it's like it starts getting more and more like there are going to be more opportunities for failure, and it's impossible to get A+ on it all.
No, you can't.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's impossible.
Unrealistic expectations.
Right. And you can try. You should always try. And that's what I've been trying to like figure out now is like, I'm always trying to do the best I can, but I'm seeing it as more of like a gaze of, okay, if I have to sacrifice here, I'm doing that logically in order to benefit this. Like, it's like if it's, you know, an important date, you know, like it's the anniversary or Christmas, I'm not playing a gig. You know what I mean? You know, so it's
Obviously.
like, right, obviously, right? But it's
Yeah.
not, it's obvious now. But in the but at that time, maybe I would have thought like, no, I have to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Now again, obviously I can't say, and it sounds ridiculous me saying it, but again, you're talking to somebody who, when they got like an A, would fucking burst out in tears. So, like, my mom would have to come get me after school and be like, okay, what was it? And she had to be like, it's okay that you got that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So much internalized pressure as a kid.
Yeah, like so much. And again, it didn't get better when I was labeled as gifted. You know what I mean? Like when I got to that point, I was like,
yeah. I'm just say that sounds very much like anxiety.
Yeah, well, that's what it is.
I'm
right?
sure that's what it is.
And again, it's not like it's a crippling thing, like to me right now. It just because I've learned.
It sounds crippling.
Then yeah, but I've definitely learned, like over my life. I mean, like again, I think I was fortunate enough that it happened at a young age,
so you
that I was like that. So I was able to, because I think I was like self-aware enough to be like, that's not right. That I'm being that.
I shouldn't be feeling. Like
I shouldn't be feeling this aggressive toward it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I started to, you know, honestly, what kind of helped out was in high school.
Yeah.
Where it was broken down into like, you know, CPT is worth this percent and this percent. I was able to do the math of, okay, I got a B on this or an A on this, but if I get this on the next thing, then I'll be able to get this. And I was able to logically break down like what that means in the grand scheme of things. Right. Whereas when I was a kid, I was like, you know, you got a B. I was like, that's it. That's the fucking. That was that like my whole life is this test right now.
Yeah.
Whereas as I grew older, I was able to logically like split it up into what it means, and that's what carried through my life now.
Right.
Where I was able, where I'm able to now logically break up
it down a bit more.
Right. The breakdown is important to me, and I'm a logical thinker.
Yeah.
So it helps me kind of stay, you know, focused. And sometimes I lose it.
Almost like grounded.
Yeah, grounded. That's the word. And sometimes I lose it. Sometimes I slip. You know what I mean? Sometimes I slip, and it's like the show, right?
Yeah.
That show that I just had. It was like a moment. I was telling you off camera. I don't know if I mentioned it here.
Maybe go for it.
Where the venue held like 300 something, right? And then the Monday before the show, that was on a Sunday, I only had 85 tickets sold.
Yeah.
After a lot of money being put into this theater production, 85 tickets is like, oh, that sounds like a decent amount. No, it's really not, because I was gonna be so broke. But then, what helped me was, hold on, wait a second.
Hang on.
Like, I was like, logically, this is one part of this grand scheme of this album release. That if this part didn't exist, the album would still exist, and there would still be work put toward that.
Yep.
And then I'm like, okay, even if you take $4,000, even $5,000, right?
Yeah.
The grand scheme of things, it's a lot of money.
Sure.
But is it that much? Is it really that much money where it's like, you know, it's unrecoupable? You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's like, oh my God, now it's like the end of days. Now in my situation, you know, it's not.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me logically, you know, break things down.
Yeah.
And not put too much stress on this.
Yeah.
And actually, it was helpful. Antonio would tell me, because Antonio's a funny guy. He's for context, he's the guitarist of the band.
There you go.
And I work very closely with him, and he's one of those guys. Everything's like just chill.
Yeah.
Everything's just like super chill. So, you know, it was coming up Thursday, and I'm stressing out. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna like play to nobody. What is this, right? We're gonna be so broke.
Like,
And he was just like, it's fine. It's just one day. It's one night.
Show, dude. Yeah.
It's a show. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? It was just like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're totally right. Like it's just like. So anyway, that's what I think helps me out now, and that's what I've realized is like the logical thinking of breaking things down.
It's stepping back
and being like, don't like, because again, I'm like channeling my inner, you know, grade 2
Yeah.
When I see, like, I'm like, oh my god, it's this one thing that I'm fucking, and it's like, wait, it's like, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, right, hold on. That's just, like this tiny little, like, 2% of this plan.
This whole thing.
That I have, right? So it's like, okay, I don't have to stress that much.
Yeah, it's like,
right?
Yeah, it sucks, but, like, guess what? That's life.
Right, so it's something that
I can let it defeat me, or I could overcome
it. And
it.
what's funny is, like, after I've let go of the stress of the show, it went well, and we actually sold a lot more than I thought we would
you're
sell.
worried about nothing.
So yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like, just let it happen.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go, it doesn't go. If it goes, then great.
Yeah, exactly.
But just do what you do. Mm-hmm. Focus on what you can, and just swim.
Yeah,
just swim.
What's that old phrase? It's like, expect the worst, hope for the best.
Expect the worst. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah,
that's how I tend to live my life.
And that's
expect the worst, hope for the best.
And that's actually, funnily enough, I think that's essentially. Now I might be wrong about those in the comments. You guys can yell at me about it.
Please, yeah.
I was reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
Okay.
And he was a Roman emperor, right? I don't know if you know much about.
The name. Yep.
So he was a Roman emperor, but he wrote these basically these like memoirs or diaries, essentially, of basically his own self-therapy.
There you go.
Right, his own self-therapy of just write, because he's journaling, right?
Yeah,
he was just writing through, and those journals ended up being like, they found him. He never intended it to be published, but they became one of the most influential philosophy texts in the world, right?
There you go.
But you're reading through it, and he's basically just like, I'm a Roman emperor sending a bunch of soldiers to die. All shit's hitting the fan, but also some stuff is okay. How do I deal with this?
Yeah,
because I have a whole like Roman Empire
to take care of
that I have to figure out. So he's writing things out, and essentially he comes down to that conclusion of like, shit will happen, and if I focus on all the shit that happens,
that's
I'm not gonna be able to survive.
Yeah.
And and again, he has the whole Roman Empire on his shoulders. So he's like, if I don't survive, Rome doesn't survive.
Yeah.
So he's like, let me just.
That's a whole other scale, but
yeah. I mean, yeah. Talk about pressure.
Oh my god!
Not a B on a math test one day. It's like.
Were there other aspects of your life that affected outside of school? I'm just curious. Is it like you use a lot of school as examples, but like...
Well, because again, I put a lot of... Because that was like what I was doing, right?
Right.
And it's like anything in my life that's like, that's what I was doing, that's what I'm doing, it affected it. So it's like, let's say, like learning violin.
Sure.
I mean...
not a stressor,
again, it's funny because... Funny, I wouldn't say funny, but it's more just like, it's interesting because if I wasn't the way I was... probably wouldn't be a violinist today, because I picked violin, and I was like, now I have to do this.
Right.
It is not an easy instrument to play, especially at the start. You sound like a dying cat for like the first. I still sound like a dying cat sometimes when I don't play for a while. I'm going, Jesus, what is going on here? But it was that like determination and like complete, like the world, like my world depends on me doing well at this, that let me actually do that. So there's a certain aspect of me where it's like, I'm thankful that I had that part of me,
right? But
also it was like, okay, there's like, I wish I could have been able to, reel it back when I needed to.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it affected everything. Like, it's like even swimming, like I would take swimming lessons, and it ended up being like, I think I was like 12 or 13, and I was doing the last level of swimming. Because I just took it that serious. I'm like, I have to learn how to swim. I have to do this.
Yeah, you just like...
And I remember, because again, I was like a 12-year-old in a class that I think the average age was 16 or 17. And I had to swim down. I don't know if anybody's done the swimming, to become a lifeguard. But you have to swim down, and you have to pick up a brick off the bottom of and
then bring it back up.
And then bring it back up. I got down there. I was too small to pick up the brick.
Like a 12-year-old, yeah.
I was a 12-year-old. I was like, I swam down. I burst out in tears. I was like, I can't do this.
Damn, man.
Yeah, it was like so much pressure on me to be like, I have to do this.
It just sounds like you have so much internal pressure for yourself throughout the years.
It's one of those things. It's funny because I think it's a very common thing for a lot of people to have that much, especially people that like are funnily enough, artists, really.
Yeah, anybody in the art sphere.
Where there's a lot of pressure to, like, you have to do it the best that you possibly
The
can.
world's not built for us.
Right, and it's like, it's like, what is it? It's the, what's that word? What the artist? That's like the like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Beethoven was a something artist. They'll know. Everybody watching will know.
They're probably screaming at us right now. Like, it's this. The tortured artist.
The tortured artist, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. I totally get it. I totally understand it.
Yeah.
Right? But that's so it did affect my life. Like, whenever I was doing something, it was, like life or death.
Right.
Right? And again,
where do you think that stems from, though? Like, have you ever thought about it? So, like, here. I'm not claiming to be a therapist at all. I'm not. I'm just a guy on the podcast.
Yeah.
But getting to know you better now through this podcast,
Yeah.
This is my hypothesis, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, shoot.
I think you, and just the way you talk about it, too, makes me think this as well. You have such a negative aspect with the label that you were given.
Yeah, but don't forget, this was also, like, grade 1, grade 2. There
Even
was
before
there was no label.
True. So it's like you were just instilled with it at such an early age. But, like, I'm sure it didn't help the attributing to it on top of what you already had the internal pressure was when you were younger.
Well, yeah.
But you said grade 4 is when you were labeled?
when I got was deemed gifted.
So I can only imagine what that does to your psyche at that age.
Yeah.
And, like, that in and of itself puts internal pressure on you, whether you think it or not. It does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it did. Right.
And so it sounds like you already had a bit of it before, and then getting that, and then it just amplified it.
Because I think,
because you said in middle school and high school it was the same thing, right?
Right. I mean, throughout high school it got better. Right, because that's when I was able to logically differentiate
but up until that
things,
point,
right?
It was still,
right, kind of
so I think
tough.
maybe you internalized a lot of that.
Yeah, but I think it was also, like, again, if I'm going to look way back at my childhood, right? Like, I went to a Montessori kindergarten, right? And it's like, this seems like, okay, that's way too far back, but I don't think it was, because everything came, like, it just naturally came easy to me. Right? They would have math things and, language things and French and this and that and reading. And I would just breeze through it to the point where halfway through the day where I'm supposed to do, my second half of my work already finished. So I just sleep from, like, fucking noon till my parents had to pick me up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
it wasn't
a thing like your whole life, basically.
Yeah, and I wasn't very socially, like, what's it called? At that time, I wasn't very, like, eager to socialize.
Yeah, you weren't socially inept.
I was more independent. I've always been independent, right?
Sure.
So I was like, I don't feel like talking to people that are just going to throw, like, crayons on the floor. I just wasn't into it.
That's a lot of internal pressure right there, too.
But, like, that's what it was. I was like, I'm not really into it. So I was like, I went through kindergarten like that. And I remember grade 1, I had maybe 2 friends.
Yeah.
And I remember just, like, my idea of like a recess was just walking around talking. Like, I didn't play soccer and, like, sports with all the other guys. It's like me and my best friend at the time would just walk and talk.
Yeah.
And it was great. Like, I don't, and I'm still like that. It's not like I'm, like, very excited to go out and just, like, although I do like tennis and I do like soccer and I do like that stuff, right? And I will do that with friends. But it's like, I enjoy just talking. So there's nothing wrong with that, of that upbringing. But I think that idea of, like, less social, with, like, less quantity of people around me, to kind of dilute that idea of me having to always, because I was always in competition with me.
It sounds like it.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, when I found everything easy, all of a sudden there's something that I have to do a little bit of work for. It's like, what is happening? Did I lose it? What's going on?
Right. That inner, like, challenge within yourself.
Yeah, it was almost like, and I remember there was, like, a point where it was like, and it's true. Like, I think the way I think is, like, I have a specific way of thinking a lot of the time, and okay, a little recent story time.
Sure.
So this might be an aside, but I don't know. I'll just
before the story. I had a question. I don't want to forget.
Yeah, go ahead.
to tie in with what you were speaking about, did you ever feel isolated at any point in your life?
In certain points, yeah, because I didn't relate a lot to the guys.
See, this is what I'm picking up on.
I'll be honest, I didn't relate a lot. Like, my best friend was a girl, right?
Yeah.
And I always hung out, like, I've always been, like, more, like, hung out with women. Always.
Sure.
And
I can relate to that.
Right. And I, like, throughout elementary school, you know, they have, like, the, the different, like, clubs, right? Yeah. I did all of them. I did rug hooking. I did freaking, like, what else did I do? Rug hooking. There was the crocheting. I did, I don't know, I forget what it's called, but there's, like, these bracelets that you can make with these, like, flexible plastic things. Anyway,
like
whatever.
Charm bracelets or whatever.
Yeah, whatever they were. Anyway, I did all that kind of stuff. It was me surrounded, because at recess, I'm like, I either learn a new skill.
Yeah.
And then I try to sell it. I try to sell the stuff I made because I was a little entrepreneur.
A little
hustler, yeah.
You were a hustler kid from Recess.
Yeah. But, like...
Please tell me someone gets that reference.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the show Recess?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah,
oh my God,
you're a
that's
hustler
like,
kid.
Whoa. That brought me back. Whoa, that was...
You're welcome.
Recess, man. Thank you.
I was always TJ'd at Weiler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But,
sorry, go ahead. I meant more like
forgot that
isolated
show
because
existed.
of, like, the status you were at.
But no, I mean, I was isolated in my interests, and I was isolated in everything. Like, I chose, for fuck's sake, I was 7 years old, I chose violin.
Right. That's
everybody else was like, I want to be a rock star.
7-year-old choice.
And, like, choose guitar and stuff. I'm like, I want to be a violinist.
Yes, I want to be Beethoven.
Yeah, so it's like my choices, I was, like, part of the chess club, which is not a team sport.
Right. It's
not a sport at all, really, is it? Would you consider it a sport?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It involves strategical thinking.
Yeah, I guess, right? But I was like an individual thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
My sport of choice in high school, take a guess what it was.
Something individual, I'm sure.
Swimming.
There you go. Right? I mean,
So
you have
it's
team
like,
swims.
Yeah, relays, but realistically, the race is the race.
Were doing single, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Interesting.
So it's like I was always like very much of an independent kind of person. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course.
But because of the way I am built, I was kind of always thinking competition with me. Because that's who I was competing with.
Yeah, and that's the internalized pressure.
Right? Which, again, I don't regret. Because I wouldn't be here without that.
Sure.
Like, I genuinely would not be a musician. I would not write the music I write if I didn't have that competition with myself.
Totally.
And I still have it. I mean,
but
there's
you
a
might be
reason why.
less stressed out about it.
I mean, that would have been nice. That would have been nice if I was able to differentiate. But you know what?
That happy balance.
Again, I'm happy I figured it out.
Sure.
And I'm happy I was able to actually, like, figure out a system of approach. All right?
Yeah.
But yeah. I was going to tell this story. I forgot what the story was.
Sorry, Dan.
Actually, I do remember the story, but it doesn't connect to anything right now, so I'm just going to hold it off until
if
it does.
If it comes back later, maybe bring it in again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 segments now coming up.
Yeah, sweet.
We're moving the podcast along this journey of Daniel Monte's life.
No, is it 2?
We are at 1:17.
Wow. All right.
And you were worried we wouldn't get this far.
I was like, only half an hour.
This happens all the time, Dan. With the subject matter, it gets there, right? Yeah. So the first segment is called the Real Reels.
Okay.
So I started this segment back in the first season. My audience loves it, so it's stuck. So basically, this segment is part of the show where it's like I try to make it the most vulnerable, like the part of a conversation where it's maybe hard to talk about or it's not talked about as often, and like obviously like it varies with the guests,
right,
on their experience, right? But again, it's the whole message of the podcast. It's like breaking down the stigma, the barriers, making this conversation accessible for more people. So there's only one question in this segment, and it's just, tell us, if you can, what were some of the hardest moments you've had to deal with your mental health? And like, again, it's a scale, right? But like, don't.
I mean, again, I have an idea. I have an answer, but I'm trying to think if that's the hardest. It was probably one of the hardest.
One of the hardest.
The one that I think of immediately.
Sure.
That comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
Now, was it the hardest of my life? Probably, maybe not. I don't know. But I'll tell you what it was, and it was when I was releasing the first album.
Okay.
Because again, my life is so connected to the artist thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why a lot of it like I mention it a lot. It's my life.
It's part of our
literally
identities.
it is my identity.
Yeah.
Like literally and this first album I wrote was like the first time that I was like writing music that I was genuinely like, this is me, right?
Yeah, unapologetically you.
Right. It's like you listen to it and you're like, oh, he was thinking that, or he was thinking that, or he was thinking this, and he was thinking that, right?
Yeah.
So it was I told you about the stress that I had for this album.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had this idea of like, okay, breaking it down into the logical whatevers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that time, I also did a theater thing, so it was just as kind of busy, but it was also the first time doing a theater thing.
Yeah.
So it was even more like, stress.
I'm sure.
And it was the first time in my life where I put down like a lot of money toward an album and toward the show.
Craft and the show, yeah.
So it was a lot at that time, felt like a lot riding on it, right?
Sure.
And in that time, I was also having issues relationshiply with my relationship, right?
It's a word now.
Yeah, there it is. Like, Shakespeare made up words, so why can't we?
You can make up words too.
But
the dictionary.
yeah, but what ended up happening was I basically how do I put I want to phrase it in a way where it's not too convoluted. I was in a moment of my life where I was debating the ethics of what was good and what was bad, and a certain individual came into my life who represented a little bit more of the I wouldn't say fun. I don't want to say fun,
Okay.
but like more of the taboo,
Okay.
more of the like, let's do things that are wrong, let's do things that are bad, right?
Sure. Okay.
And I was at that time leaving, which by the way we're back together now, so it's actually like it's been a whole circle.
Oh, this is the current.
Yeah, so this
Okay.
is the current my current girlfriend, where we actually ended up taking a break, and she represented all that was essentially good. Like she genuinely is a very nice person, very good person. Like the love that you think is like the nicest, like angelic love is that, right?
Right.
And
If you're watching,
yeah.
shout out to you.
Yeah. But anyway, I was
Yes.
trying to go away from that for some reason. I don't know why, but my stresses that I was feeling with the album release and all these things was leading me down a path of, I want to go to this. I want to do something
Interesting.
crazy. I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was almost like a vice that was like, I'm so stressed here. Let me go fall into the vices, right? Some people
Yeah.
drink. Some people, smoke a lot. Some people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, in my mind, I was like, let me go into this other world of, playtime, essentially.
Yeah. Can you discuss what that looks like, or?
Well, what does it look like? It looks like breaking a lot of hearts. It looks like breaking my own heart. And I don't want to get too in depth of like the actual situational thing, but what I can say is that it was a hard time because I knew, like in the back of my mind, I threw something that was very, pristine, and like there were no issues,
Right.
but I needed to throw that out so I can pick up a lava rock that was still on fire, because I just needed to feel something.
Yeah.
Right? Because I actually have, again, I don't want to always reference the songs, but I have a song that touches on that idea, where when you have your hand and it's full of like gold, right?
Yeah.
At first you're going, this is incredible, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But then the gold gets, stops being cold to the touch because it's warmed up by your hand, and now you're basically, you and the gold, it's almost like you're not feeling anything in your hand anymore because it's the same temperature and it's smooth, and sometimes you go, what would that ice cube feel like? Or what would that like rock on fire feel like?
Right.
Or what would that really rough thing feel like?
The intrusive thoughts.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have gold in your hand,
Yeah.
and you're going, I'm gonna pick
I want
up
that.
yeah, right? And so you end up picking that up. And then as soon as you drop that gold, you're going, oh, fuck. I just dropped a bunch of gold.
Yeah.
That's what was happening.
That's an interesting analogy.
Right? But that's what was happening in my relationship. And it was, like, really, like, that, like, if there was a moment that was crippling, I mean, that was pretty crippling.
It sounds like it was.
But it was also, I had to move through it because I had a show coming up.
True. So, like...
So it was a lot
juggling
of...
so many things at the same time, it seems like.
Yeah. So it was, like, a lot of that, and that was chaotic.
Yeah.
And then I had to kind of keep pushing toward doing the show. And then always... And at that time, after I performed the show, I was like... You know, I've already made my mind up that I wanted to try getting the gold back, which is not easy to do.
Not once you drop it.
Once you drop it, it's very hard to find again.
It's tarnished. You got to find it. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, it was a lot of stress. It was a lot of stress in my life. It was a lot of anxiety. It was a lot of crying. It was a lot of, you know.
Yeah.
I still feel shit about it. Like, it's still like we don't really like to talk about it much.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
it still sticks with you, eh?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something that has improved our relationship, right? Because that
you guys have grown since then, obviously.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also something that's like it happened, and it's something
did.
that's like it's like a very intense thing that's happened.
You had to live through that.
Again, there's more to it, and I don't want to get too much into it.
Sure, that's fine.
But yeah, I think we can kind of leave it at that. That was probably one of the most intense.
It sounds like a pretty hard time in your life.
Yeah, it was a pretty hard time, and that's when I realized. Again, I feel bad saying it because it's like it's not like there was anything wrong with the with the other girl, right?
Yeah.
She was sweet, you know, she was nice. It just wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, you know, realistically, it wasn't good for me, but I was also not good for her at all. Like, you're talking about, like, a guy that was in a situation where I was, like, you know, being with her after debating still whether or not I want to be with somebody else. Like, that's not good for her either.
It's toxic on both ends.
Yeah, like, completely toxic. Like, I was toxic for her, and she was toxic for me. Like, it was just not good.
Yeah, it's just chaos.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but I learned that sometimes you kind of have to... You have to kind of separate that. And it's okay. Like, I've always tried to keep people in my life at all times. And, like, you know, it's like, you know, always try to be friendly and reach out and yada, 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 right?
Sure.
But in this particular situation, I'm like, it's beneficial to both of us.
If we just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. And that's and you know what? I think she's happier.
And it seems like you're happier, too. So.
I'm happier.
Yeah.
And
it's a hard lesson to learn, but
it was, and that was, I think, the first time that I was actually like,
you're like, fuck.
Yeah, right. And I was also, I realized that it's like there's certain people in your life that you do have to kind of
cut out.
Not again, and it's not because they were bad.
No.
It's a mutual thing. It's like I was just as bad for her.
And it's good that you realize that.
Right. Yeah. And that
helps you grow.
Yeah. No. Exactly. And it's like, you know, I was like, I'll be, you know, we were talking about before. Like, we're not assholes. I was an asshole. I was a big asshole. It was awful. Anyway,
dude, we are all capable of being assholes.
Yeah,
in one way or another. You know, like, and I think anybody in their life now, looking back at certain times in their life, saying that they weren't an asshole, probably lying.
Yeah, no, everybody,
you know?
Everybody has their.
We're
human.
okay.
That's part of it.
It's
part.
Like
human.
we've been saying this whole time. It's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be an asshole once in your life.
Yeah, or twice, 3 times,
or a couple of times. You know, before you learn not to do said thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Daniel, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I'm sure it's not super easy to talk about that kind of hard stuff in your life, but I appreciate you opening up and letting the audience know and stuff. And
of course,
I'm think sure if people can relate to your situation, they probably like, he went through that too. Like, I've been through, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. No, I'm happy. I'm happy to share it. Like,
thank you for sharing, dude.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know it's like, and that's the part of the podcast that I weirdly get the most like satisfaction doing. I think is getting to this vulnerable place with people.
Right, because you're getting right into the core.
It's the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
You know, there's no avoiding it. It's right. You know, like, but it's the realest shit that we can talk about.
Yeah.
You can't get any more real than this.
Yeah, no,
Like,
exactly.
that was literally the hardest moment, or one of the hardest moments in your life.
Right.
You know, and we're like openly talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like, there's no judgment zone at all here.
No, I feel that there's no judgment. So
Yeah, no,
it's great.
I've seen and heard a
Yeah.
lot of fucking things in my life, so I'm pretty,
Yeah.
I'm pretty tuned in to most things at this point in my life. So,
Right.
but no, I just thank you for sharing it. It's like, do you feel like a weight off your shoulders a little bit too? Like, I find people, like, once they go in there and they come out, they're like, oh,
I will say, like this whole podcast so far has been like, because I haven't really thought about my childhood and these things like in the past for quite a while now. So it's like looking back on it, I'm actually feeling, it feels almost, I'm happy to be at the spot I'm at now.
yeah, makes you more grateful.
And I'm kind of grateful that I also had to go through the shit that I had to go through.
Of course.
Because that also brought me to the place I am now.
Yeah.
Right?
Without that, you wouldn't be Daniel Monte.
Right. And it's rare for me to be able to, it's rare for a lot of people, I think, to be able to just like have a moment, like an hour and a half or whatever it is, to actually go through and be like, wow, this is my life. This is what it was. And this is, you know, so
to put it under a microscope.
Yeah.
Quite literally, and be like,
It's
oh,
very
shit.
interesting.
Like,
it's very interesting. And it feels like refreshed.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I hope to achieve, I guess, in a way, you know? And that's a perfect segue into the next segment of the show.
Not planned, by the way.
It just works out naturally most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, you're going to the darkest, and, like, I find, you know, you talk about it, and then you, like, you want to come out of it, obviously, right? So, like, that's why I put these segments next to each other, 'cause it's, like, darkest, and now, where do we come out of that?
Right.
So this segment's called the rainbow segment.
Nice.
Which is basically, like, coming out of the darkness. You know, like, presumably you're going to struggle more in your life. Obviously, that's a given.
Yeah.
But I feel like most of the guests I have on the show are at a place now where it's like they have a better understanding at least, or they've come out of hopefully some of the worst points, and they're moving forward.
Right.
So that's this segment's kind of like recovery, if you will, from past stuff.
Okay.
And then, like, moving forward.
Right.
So the first question in this segment is, are there any positive attributes that you're discovering with coming out of some of those hardest moments you talked about? And are there any, like, things you've discovered within yourself about really dealing with your mental health?
Well, I mean, I get a lot of it. I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that I think my big thing is like a self-analytical kind of situation, right?
Absolutely.
So all these troubles, there's all these like situations that I'm put in, the hardest moments, or you know, even the brightest moments, whatever it is. They kind of, again, I'm able to look more like, look at myself as an individual and realize, like, again, like I think there's a very positive way to, okay, how do I put this?
It's a tough question. I know
it's a little bit, it's hard to just phrase it, because it's like, yeah, you learn a lot about yourself.
You do.
And you learn how to deal with certain things. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is also, you, like, I have a different look and view on people, in like that whole situation where I said that other girl, I was just as bad for her as she was for me.
Yeah.
It stops, because, like, you know, a lot of the time people think, like, that person's bad, that person's good.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's not black and white.
Everybody's good is just that, like, whether or not there's a vibe. You know what I mean? Whether or not there's, like, some sort of, like, you can be, their perspective is valid just as much as yours is.
Sure.
Right? So when somebody's an asshole, I'm thinking, what is going on in their lives? Mm-hmm. And what is it that, because I've been an asshole. I've been there. I've been a complete prick.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, if somebody's treating me in that way, not to take it too heavily.
Sure.
Don't take it too, you know, and you can kind of, it almost builds more of a connection to people, in a sense. Yeah. Whereas, like, you can kind of relate.
Do you play devil's advocate a lot?
All the time. Yeah. Honestly, it's one thing.
Dude, I'm the same way. I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm like, this is exactly what I would say.
Yeah, but like, you have to, because I think that the troubles lay when you stop looking at perspectives. I mean, that's why you talk to a therapist, is because you're trying to get another perspective that you did not think of.
Absolutely.
Right?
Of course.
And I know that, you know, when when anybody has an issue that comes to me, if they were to come to me, my first thing, and a lot of people, it's funny, I've been told in my life that you always choose the middle ground. You never pick a side. I'm like, there's no side to pick.
Yeah, no.
That doesn't exist.
Create a side. It makes it inherently bad.
Let's discuss everything.
Yeah.
Let's discuss all perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we can come to some sort of terms, a conclusion, and there's a different frame of thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And again, this way of thinking was impossible without all the crap that I've come out of. Right?
Yeah.
And some people have more crap than others, and they come out with different kind of realizations and means of thinking and ways of living their life.
Sure.
Right? So
yeah,
in terms of the bright side of things,
yeah.
I mean, again, and I think I mentioned this before, where it's everything that's happened, the way I'm talking now is I wouldn't be talking this way at all. I wouldn't have anything to say, really, if I didn't experience all that.
Of course.
Because I believe that experiences are the number one thing you should be gaining from life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Money is one thing, but if you don't have an experience, then
it means
nothing. It means nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to collect your stories, essentially, right?
Yeah, of course.
And those stories could be pretty shitty.
They can be, for sure.
Right? Those stories can be horror films. Those stories could be, drama, tragedies. And a lot of the time, those are the ones that actually teach you the most.
Of course.
And so there's no I don't look, again, that's why, is I don't look back at anything in my life with distaste. Yes, at the beginning, just to circle back about the label, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get emotional talking about it.
You did.
But it's not
That's fair, though.
Yeah, but it's not I'm oh, my life would have been better without that. No, because I wouldn't be the way I am without that.
Yeah, you had to go through that, like we said, to get to who you are now.
For me to say, oh, I wish that didn't happen, that's for me to say, oh, I don't like the way I am now. And I wish that there was something else.
Essentially, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's accurate for my life. In this moment, I'm like, no, this is great. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that all that has happened.
Right.
Right?
And that's a good outlook to have, man.
Yeah.
To flip it completely on its head and be like, nah, this had to happen this way. Sure, it was shitty, but I got through it, and I'm a better person for it now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's huge.
And I think anybody going through something, it's if I'm going to talk to the audience for anything right now, it would be whatever you're going. Yeah, whatever you are going through. Believe me, you're going to come out with it with a new set of eyes, with a new outlook, with something that you can look back and be like, I've learned something. And you probably, if you're going through it, you probably won't believe me right now. But just trust the process, trust the time. Yeah.
No, good words, dude. Good words. I think you probably covered a lot of that already in the next question, but if you think of anything else, let me know.
Sure.
Have you found any constructive ways in dealing with your mental health?
I'm a huge advocate about logically thinking, because that strips right, because that strips out the emotional aspect. Mm-hmm. And I've developed to be very good at that.
Yeah.
To take away the emotion and just think about it.
What's that process like for you? Do you so put yourself in a scenario where it's the stress comes on, and the anxiety comes on. You can feel it boiling, and you know that it's not rational. So what's your next step?
Okay, so now there's two kind of paths that I take.
Okay.
Right? Now, if it's something that's overwhelming, and I've been overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be an artist. Mm-hmm. And music is something that I am able to express through.
It's a form of escapism.
So when I sit down at the piano, for instance, and I start singing, I've written some very heavy songs.
I can imagine.
That whole situation, right?
Oh, dude.
4 or 5 songs. There's a one specific song that when I listen to it, I'm like, wow, this is this was on my mind, right?
Yeah.
I was I didn't know what to do. The logical thing didn't help because it was an emotional thing there. It's there's no logical, well, if my girlfriend can still, if I do this, and that's not, it's
you
not,
can't,
certain things are emotional.
And they have to be.
So in that situation, I'm fortunate enough that I can go and express on the piano.
Yeah.
And I play, I write, without forcing it. It just happens. I cry. But then it's dude, I will tell you, I remember playing it, like, the fully finished song. Again, it only took half an hour to write it. Like, it wasn't like a big ordeal. It was like a half-hour thing. It just came to me, in that moment. I played it. Mm-hmm. As soon as I finished the last note, it was like,
yeah.
It was like, oh my God, I'm fine.
Well, it's because you took it from, like, here and you put it here.
Yeah. And it was, again, I can speak because that's what I know. Is I know that feeling. I have that ability, that opportunity to have that.
Yeah. I think you can apply that to a lot of people's situations. Like, if they're dealing with something, like, yours is music, mine's music.
Right.
But, like, maybe yours is gardening.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe yours
I think everybody has to find something of theirs. Right.
Like an outlet.
An outlet. And, like, my girlfriend is, like, she is a fantastic poet when she's feeling some sense of something.
There you go.
You know what I mean? When she's, like, she doesn't write a lot of poetry. She only writes, essentially, when she's in that kind of overwhelmed state.
Yeah.
And she's a fantastic poet. It becomes the best art that you can do is through that, in that space.
Yeah.
But it's an outlet for her.
Yeah, it's a form of release.
And I'm so happy she's found that, right?
Yeah,
because I think everybody needs something like that.
Absolutely.
Now, then there's the other path, though, right? There's the other path, and that's more of my business side of things.
Sure.
So a lot of the time I get, we're on the same journey as trying to be an artist, and that doesn't just include writing music and playing.
No.
That includes being a tour manager, like we were talking
90% of everything else.
Yeah, exactly, right?
The 10% that you see at home is 90% of what we do behind the scenes.
Exactly. But what I've kind of come to is almost like, it's funny, I'm gonna say it's so stupid, but like it's almost like the zero fuck switch. Right? Where I'm like, I'm in the situation, and I will, and I've become very, like, pretty good at it, where I can just flip that switch down.
Yeah.
I can be like, no, I give zero fucks right now. I don't care about what anybody's telling me right now. I don't care about what anybody's thinking right now. I don't care what anybody, like, what emotions I'm feeling. Let me just see it from an outside point of view.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Because writing down things helps a lot.
Important.
Right? Lists. I actually carry, I don't have it on me now, but it's in my, I usually carry it around.
Yeah.
I have one in the car. A little notebook.
Yeah.
Right? Where when I'm, like, overwhelmed with, like, these stresses of, like, I got this to do, that to do, just write it down.
Yeah, you're journaling.
Yeah, essentially, right? Write it down, and you have a whole idea of stuff there.
Is that red book right there?
Is that it?
That's my journal.
Beautiful. That's it helps. It works.
It's important.
So in terms of process, yeah. I just take things as, like, okay, this is, like, matter of fact. As matter of fact as you possibly can do it. And if you do it as matter of fact as you possibly can, you can take a look at it and be like, oh, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Right? And actually, speaking of, this actually might be, I don't know if people have seen this, but on Netflix, I think it's called Stutz. It's Jonah Hill's therapist.
Okay.
Right? And it's worth a watch. But he talks about different methods about dealing with certain things, right?
Sure.
And he goes, and one thing that stuck with me, again, it's those, like, these little things that stick with you.
Yeah, of course.
But this one thing that stuck with me, he goes, there are 3 things in life that will never change. So whatever it is, these three things will always stay. So just, when you have that to do, just accept it and carry on. Mm-hmm. You're always going to have to work hard.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a sense of pain.
Yeah. Because
pain doesn't go away.
Nope.
And the biggest thing for me, as an artist, and I'm sure you can relate to this.
We're all going to die.
No. True, but
damn.
No.
Okay.
It's uncertainty.
True.
There's a
We're
lot
all
of
going to die.
We're gonna die. Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, that leads into all of them, actually, doesn't it?
Right? Like
pain, uncertainty. Working hard to die. Okay.
We all work hard to die.
Okay, maybe 2 out of the 3.
2 is very bad.
But no, the uncertainty
good,
thing, for me, the uncertainty thing is like,
it's scary.
But it's, I'm like, okay, because that's, I'm comforted in that, because I'm like, it's something that exists in everybody's life.
It does.
Right? It's not just me being like, because I came from science, choosing music.
Yeah.
So sometimes my mind slips into, it would have been even easier if I just fucking became a physicist.
Right.
But it wouldn't be less uncertain. I wouldn't have to work less.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't feel less pain.
Yeah, you wouldn't feel as fulfilled as you do now, perhaps, right?
right? But it's like that idea of like those three things exist. It kind of is like, oh, I'm feeling those three things, but
and accepting them.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest part too,
well,
right?
And do you know what? This kind of relates. Look at that. Look at us going full circle. You know the shining triplets. That's what I see as my shining triplets.
There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
Right?
Yeah.
It's those three.
So we have triplets.
Situations.
We both have triplets.
Yeah, and it's nice because again, having that like being able to be like, oh, okay, everybody has these. I can move on. You know what I mean? I don't get lost in that because I know that's just part of us. Like I have toes. It's the same thing in my mind.
I believe that's called radical self-acceptance.
Is there? Sure.
I think that's what that is.
Sure.
And like you're just tying it to those three ideologies.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to think about.
Yeah. But anyway, that's I hope what I said kind of made sense too.
That's super constructive, man. Like I don't think I've had a guest on the show break it down that way.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people. I mean, there's methods for everything, right?
Right.
And everyone finds something different. Like therapy might not work for people. Therapy might work for some people. I've had people just say going for a walk in nature is a big thing for them.
Even actually for me too. I do that too. I love my nature walks.
I think it's important for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, just going outside of a house or the building or whatever that you're in, like and being with nature in a forest or by the beach or in a mountain or wherever.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Like getting back to the earth roots.
I think it's such a part of human nature.
Right.
Like we need that.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people forget that it's like
where we're
concrete.
From.
Yeah. Like the concrete jungle is not.
And it's so unnatural.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and totally, man. So like I get all kinds of spectrums for like how people have constructively gone through their mental health. And it sounds like you have a very dynamic way of viewing that. Whether it's I'm glad you said journaling because it's important.
Yeah. And again, like for me, journaling is like just writing a list. It doesn't have to be like
a diary.
Oh dear. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, oh, today I did this and I went to here. I mean, it could be that.
Absolutely.
But for me, it's just literally like bang, 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 like literally 5 minutes of my time.
Like bullet points.
Not even. Yeah, bullet points. Right? I'm driving. I'm at a, I pull into a parking lot before I have to go to the store and I just quickly jot these things down. And it doesn't become something where it's like, I have to do this now. And it's like this overwhelming thing. It's just something part of life.
Yeah.
It's part of my day now.
That's great.
Where I just write it down because I just need to figure that out.
I bet you it helps a lot.
Oh, dude, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without that journal.
Do you see this calendar right here?
Yeah.
This is mine.
Yeah, no, exactly, right?
Like, I have to map all my shit out on this fucking board in front of me to like keep myself organized.
Keep yourself organized. It makes sense.
Like, it alleviates some of the fucking stress.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You know, of like having to remind myself internally, you know? So I can totally get that, dude.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, that was fucking great, man.
Oh, good. I'm glad I had something to share.
We got so much out of that. It was awesome.
Yeah, actually, I came out with more than I thought I would. I told you downstairs. I was worried. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna.
Yeah, for those listening and watching, before we started recording the episode, Dana was like asking me, like, I don't know, or more like telling me, like, I don't know if I have much to give. Like, I'll try, and like, you gotta help guide the conversation. I was like, dude, you talked way more than I did.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, you asked the right questions, I guess. I mean, the environment's great here, and it just it was easy.
That's great, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you for this.
It's all about the safe environment, dude. So, and thank you for sharing, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was very fun.
It was great, man. So yeah, that all being said, the floor is yours. If you want to have any final thoughts or feelings that you want to express to the viewers or listeners.
I mean, I think when I pointed to the camera there, I think I said all I needed to say.
Again.
But I'll say it again one more time.
Yeah.
If you are going through anything, you will be able to get out of there. If you need help, get help. Right? Do what you think you have to do to move forward past it, and then look back at it introspectively, and realize that there will be a time where you look back at it and actually I've gained something from it, where you will be happy in the situation you are in because of what you're going through now, if that makes sense. So just keep looking ahead, stick to it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for those final thoughts, man. That's huge. It's huge.
Thank you.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for being on the pod. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This was really enjoyable. I was like, it's a really enjoyable. If you ever want me to come on again, man, I'm happy to come on again.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2.
I would love that, man. I would love that. So before we leave, I just leave space for the guests to plug anything they want to plug? If you got anything coming up, or
Sure. I mean, we
wanna
did.
shout anything?
We
or-
did just release an album.
Yeah,
So,
talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually it's funny. Funnily enough, a lot of the things we talked about are in this album.
I
Right?
love it.
Ethics, study of like what's good, what's bad. There's the looking, moving past the bad things of the past and looking toward the future. That's involves the uncertainty.
ironic.
Yeah, it's on my mind, right? It's like it's
Yeah.
just what I exist in.
Mm-hmm. And you use, like you said in the pod, like you use the writing to get through stuff.
Right, exactly. So it's like if you really want a journey on like an inside look to what I've been like going
What we
through,
just discussed, basically.
right? I
In
mean,
song form.
In song form, right? You'll
Yeah,
see
check
it.
out the album.
You'll see it on Now Part 1. So you can check it on Now Part 1. There are 8 full-length tracks with one little intro. So yeah, and then feel free to let me know what you
So
think.
people know where to look for.
What? Sorry.
What's the name so people know?
Oh,
Like-
Daniel Monte.
There you go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Daniel Monte. Now Part 1. Check it out.
On Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff.
Everything, anywhere you want. I think we
it.
even have lyric videos on YouTube if you want to check out
Perfect.
the words with it.
Sweet.
And feel
what's
free to DM me too if you like it and you want to tell me something. Whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, DM
Yeah,
me.
of course. And what's the YouTube page, just in case?
Daniel Monte. If you just search
Yep.
up Daniel Monte,
It'll come up.
Daniel Monte.
There you go. Good
Then,
thing you spelled it because people are gonna.
Yeah, they're gonna, But yeah, if you want to check it out, Daniel Monte on YouTube. I think it's like youtube.com/Daniel Monte. Oh, you'll find it. It'll be there.
Perfect. Love it. And if people want to reach out, buddy, like where can they find you to reach out?
Instagram. Instagram's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
Feel free to reach out on. Actually, probably Instagram is the best way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other ways. Facebook, I'm rarely on. So if you reach out to me on Facebook, I'm sorry if I don't answer you in
So
like
don't
2 months.
do Facebook.
Yeah. Let's go with
Instagram. Okay. And what's the Instagram handle?
Daniel Monte Music.
Got it.
Yeah.
You heard that, guys. Daniel Monte Music. Or Monta.
Monte.
Monte?
I think
Monte.
I accidentally said Monta, but it's Monte.
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 Got it.
All
I keep saying Monte.
What's my name again?
What's my name? Danny Boy. That's your name.
Yeah. I still didn't come up with an. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
No.
You gotta think of something before we exit out of the spot, dude. Not to put you on the spot.
No, I got
The
nothing.
listeners and viewers
I got
are
nothing.
waiting for this.
They need to help me out with this because I'm not going to come up with anything right now.
All right, we'll point it to you guys.
Yeah.
If you got this far in the pod and you heard what we talked about earlier in the pod, put some suggestions in the comments to help Daniel with a nickname for me.
Forever nickname for Taylor.
Yes, because I call him Danny Boy, so it's exclusively us. So what can he call me?
Yes, because I have nothing in my mind right now.
And we'll report back when we find something that works.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Daniel. Well, hey, thank you so much. Please check this guy out. He's an amazing artist, an amazing friend.
Thank you.
Just a good all-around human being who I'm just happy to know.
Thanks,
and,
man.
Thanks for coming on today, dude, and chatting with me.
Thanks for having me. It was honestly a pleasure.
This has been a great conversation. I feel like I know you so much better now.
You probably know me more
Which-
than a lot of people know me at this point.
That's crazy. Like that's just the one benefit of doing this show, I guess, right? Like it's just it's so I don't know. It's crazy.
It's awesome. It's really good. It's really cool.
But dude, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, dude.
Thank you.
And for those listening and watching, if you enjoyed the episode, we've got audio versions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. Give it a follow, give it a like, give it a review if you really like it. That helps us out, get into more people's ears, and this message across that we're trying to spread. I say we. It's only I'm a one-man team. I keep saying we.
Oh,
like
everybody
it's a
that's
brand.
Everybody that's part of it too. All the people
Exactly.
that come on.
I mean,
So
I'm
that-
including collective.
we're all connected as
Every
a we.
guest I've had on the show, you know. But yeah, and you can check out the YouTube, the video version, which I film. Every video version. It's going to be on YouTube at A Mental Break Podcast. You can check us out on Instagram at A Mental Break Podcast. We post clips there and stuff and updates on the episodes, whatever. And if you want to follow me individually, I'm at Taylor Simpson Music. Check out me as well.
Follow him. It's great stuff.
Thank you, Daniel. But yeah, until next time, guys, drink some water, go outside, and tell somebody in your life you love them.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Right?
Yeah, tell 2 people. Fuck it. Tell 3.
Tell 10.
Hugs all around.
If you know 10 people, tell all of them you love them. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Daniel really appreciates it too. And I love you.
Love you too, man.
All right, let's look it up.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody. Sorry, Mikey.